Did y'all know Boston is the best team in the NBA? We are 20 games into the NBA season and the Boston Celtics have a record of 16-4, which if you can't tell is easily the best record in the NBA. And there is a group of people that were surprised of this outcome, but honestly, I'm not. I think some people thought they'd be good, but not this good, and I think others thought they would struggle because they don't have a head coach. Well, okay, they do have a head coach, but he was a guy that was their assistant and they lost their head coach who made them win in the first place. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is that this team had a struggle to start the season off, yet they've seen no regression. Now, last year, what I thought was interesting is that Boston actually started off really bad, and a lot of people said that this is the end of the Boston Celtics, and it wouldn't be till like February when the team finally started to turn it around. However, this season, it seems to be a different outcome as Boston is starting off very hot. And I don't think it would be that crazy to say Boston is the best team in the NBA. I would say one of the factors leading to this is the fact that Jayson Tatum is having a career year so far, averaging 30 points per game. Last year, he struggled. He was a shell of his former self, and people thought about trading him and keeping Jaylen Brown instead. Now, no disrespect to Jaylen Brown, but I still do believe this is Jayson Tatum's team. And this year, I think Tatum is really showing the fact that he's developing as a player. Not just in his play, but statistically, every single season he has improved in his points per game. Other aspects as well, like his defense, his playmaking ability, they have always just seemed to level up as each season has gone on. And because of this one simple factor, I think it's one of the reasons why Boston has been so damn effective. But it wouldn't be a me reviewing a team video if I didn't talk about the bench depth of the Boston Celtics. Now look, last season, I'm gonna be honest, if Boston played literally any other team in the Western Conference that was not the Warriors, who were basically destined to win that NBA Finals, I would have picked Boston to win that Finals series. And even at times, they were able to stop Steph Curry and the Warriors, but unfortunately for them, the Warriors would end up winning. And one of the biggest reasons why I think this team really showed out, because Tatum last year in the Finals did not show up at all, was the bench depth of this team. Boston has a pretty strong rotation, which I think definitely does lead to championship winning teams. Having guys like Malcolm Brogdon, who I think was a really good pickup for them, and Peyton Pritchard and Blake Griffin, even having Batman himself on the roster is really showed the depth of this team. Last year, Grant Williams was one of my favorite players on Boston because he definitely brought something off the bench, and I feel like he's doing that this year as well. Something that I was fascinated by when I was researching this video is the fact that the Boston Celtics have not only the highest offensive rating, but also the highest net rating as a whole. Sure, we can look at the record and say, hey, they're playing pretty well and they have the best record in the NBA, but I like to look at net ratings and offensive ratings because it really does give you a perspective on how the team is doing. Now, of course, if we're gonna talk about the Celtics and how they're doing, we cannot forget about Jaylen Brown. Sure, Jayson Tatum is having a career year and no one is doubting that, and yeah, he's playing like a top 3 to 5 NBA player right now, but Jaylen Brown is also doing pretty well himself. This season, he's averaging 26 points per game on 60% true shooting, which up to this point has actually been the best percentage in his career. And as we've seen over the years, Jaylen Brown has definitely developed. What I think is interesting is that in one season, he's going to be entering his prime. Jaylen Brown is already an amazing player, but I can only imagine what's going to happen when he hits his prime. So it's no secret that Boston has two really good players in Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. No one's really trying to dispute that. Even though these past couple seasons, the clutchness or greatness of Jayson Tatum has really been questioned. But as a whole, we can admit that these are two pretty damn good players that are going to lead Boston into victory. But there's something else about this team that I find myself very interested in and I want to break down. Because when a team gets a new head coach, normally they're supposed to struggle. It's pretty normal, even if the head coach ends up being pretty good. Especially when you have like 3 coaches in like 3 seasons. You went from Brad Stevens, who I'd say is a pretty good head coach, but he's definitely doing well with his role inside the organization right now. You had Ime Udoka, and then you have Joe Mazzulla. Despite the bullshit that happened with Ime Udoka, I would say he's still a pretty good head coach. The fact you lost him and now you have Joe Mazzulla, who is very much a brand new head coach, and you're a team that is trying to contend, that cannot be easy. So how are they doing it? Before we can talk about that, if you guys are enjoying the video, if you guys could leave a like on this and subscribe to the channel, I'd very much appreciate it. I was sick, I went on vacation, but now I'm finally back to bring out some amazing ass content. And finally, we have a sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by Epidemic Sound. Non-copyright music is one of the essentials to being a YouTuber, and it is very hard to find the right songs to use in your videos. However, Epidemic Sound is here to help you. With over 35,000 songs and 90,000 sound effects filtered by different moods and genres and tempos, Epidemic Sound is the perfect place to find music for your videos. I wouldn't be sponsoring something if I didn't actually stand stand by them, and I've been using Epidemic Sound for the longest time. Shout out to Catherine Manning. I actually found Epidemic Sound through her, and now I want to put you guys on. If you guys use the link in the description below or in my pinned comment, you guys will get a free 30-day trial. Thank you to Epidemic Sound for sponsoring this video. I'm gonna be honest, I think even though we're like 20 games into the season, that Joe Mazzulla deserves the Coach of the Year award. I'm fairly confident that Boston will end off with the best record in the Eastern Conference, and while Boston has an amazing roster, I would like to think that Joe Mazzulla has played a role in that. He's not trying to switch up too much with the team, he's kind of just kept things the same as they were, and it's showing why Boston has been able to perform well. Mazzulla seems to be more of a player's coach, and that definitely does help out in the locker room. This team went through an unnecessary scandal because of their head coach, and now it seems like that didn't even really happen. I want to transition from Joe Mazzulla to two key players on the Celtics. Sure, I've talked about Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and I talked about some of their key role players, but I want to focus on Robert Williams and Al Horford. Last year, Al Horford was very big in the Celtics playoff run, and this year, yeah, he's not having the same points per game, but his shooting has been amazing. This man is damn near shooting 50% from 3, and I gotta say, that's very impressive for someone that has such a small role on the team. It seems like Horford is kind of transcended into a 3-and-D guy, which is definitely something that a lot of championship winning teams definitely need. And if Boston wants to go forward in the playoffs, I'm just saying they're gonna need a little bit of that Horford magic from last season. Now, I want to talk about their other big man in Robert Williams, someone that is one of my favorite players on that team. Actually, nah, he's my favorite player on that team. No doubt in my mind, Robert Williams is one of the best interior defenders in the NBA. The scoring ability he has inside is not even questioned. My only issue is his durability. It seems like Robert Williams is always injured. In fact, currently he's dealing with an injury, which sucks because currently he's averaging 10 and 10 right now. I can only imagine what he'd be doing right now if he wasn't injured. I've seen some reports say that they should trade him for like Anthony Davis, which just no, not at all. While Anthony Davis is definitely injury prone, and you could definitely say the same about Robert Williams, I just think that in the long run, Robert Williams is going to be the better player. And that might be kind of controversial for me to say that, but I think Robert Williams over time is going to develop into a better player. The man is only 25, and we've seen flashes of what he can do, so if he can do that for a long period of time, then I have no question doubting his greatness. I think a lot of people assumed Boston was going to struggle because of the NBA Finals loss. They thought, oh, it was just a fluke, they're not going to do it again. But all I'm going to say is that I kind of saw this happening because Boston is still a great team at the end of the day. And I'm not going to lie, the NBA is so open right now. Like last year, we kind of knew who the contenders were, and while we know the contenders right now, we don't have a defiant answer. The Warriors and Lakers, I don't even think any of them are 500 right now. All the contender teams we talked about, a lot of them aren't even really that good right now. You have Phoenix and Boston as the two best teams in their respective conferences. I'm just going off record, by the way. So as long as something doesn't happen, it seems like it's going to be kind of a repeat like last year, except no Golden State. And with that, there's really no telling who's going to win the title, and I think Boston is going to take advantage of that, because if this team is as good as they're playing right now, I have no question I'm going to be talking about this team in July.